absolutely horrendous.
Really uncomfortable now.
I felt dizzy, felt sick.
Quite hot and bothered.
I just go giddy.
Just getting hotter and hotter.
Slowly, everything gets whiter and whiter and whiter, and then you just have no sensation. I actually passed out on the tube.
In summer, passengers on London's Underground are subjected to temperatures that nudge 40 degrees Celsius routinely. During a heatwave 2 years ago, 47 degrees was recorded. That's 20 degrees higher than the maximum allowed for transporting animals. We do have the oldest underground in the world, and that is part of the problem.
Now, the London Underground wasn't built to one plan. It grew in a very haphazard way, with tunnels built at all different widths and at all different depths. Overheating is a common problem to all the lines, and unfortunately, there isn't one common solution.
So earlier this year, London Underground unveiled a patchwork of different initiatives to make travelling on the tube more bearable. The most visible of these is a poster campaign suggesting passengers bring their own cooling system with them.
This, a bottle of water. Brilliant.
Of course I'm going to drink water. I think that's sort of silly.
Have you noticed things like this? It's a poster.
No.
It says, drink water.
Yes, no, I haven't even noticed it at all, no.
Are you not slightly embarrassed that it's kind of an obvious message to be giving passengers?
It's very important we communicate to our customers that in the hot weather they take sensible precautions, carry bottles of water.
Maybe TfL could provide the water for passengers.
Obviously we run a tube service here, we're upgrading the fans, we're bringing on new trains that are air conditioned. So in the short term we're just working with our customers to make sure they understand what to do.
So, bring your own water. And yes, fans in tunnels and on platforms do feel better.
Really refreshing.
They certainly feel cooler, but fans like these don't actually lower temperatures. Passengers are offered this suggestion.
If they're in any doubt about feeling unwell, best not to travel, wait till it gets a bit cooler.
So the message from London Underground, for the moment anyway, seems to be, if you can't stand the heat, stay off the tube. At Kingston University, they're looking at the effect of heat on the human body. At the kinds of temperatures recorded on the Underground, the consequences for passengers could be serious.
If they were there for a prolonged period of time, their body temperatures would rise above 40 degrees, and that could result in death.
Using a thermal imaging camera, I wanted to test my body's reactions to such temperatures in controlled conditions in the university's heat chamber.
Now, the temperature in the room right now is a comfortable 21 degrees C. And on the thermal imaging camera, that's represented by blues and greens. Now, in the chamber, it's a hot 47. And I'm going to sit in there for a while and see what happens.
We'll return to the heat chamber later. Back on the tube, passengers are promised things will get cooler from 2010 with air-conditioned trains on the shallow subsurface lines. But that still leaves a big problem for the deeper lines. That's 2/3 of the network. The Bakerloo, Northern and Victoria, for example, are embedded 60 metres or more down in London clay, which acts as an insulator. It absorbs heat from passengers, trains and their braking systems. Over the years, that heat has become trapped, raising temperatures. Professor Graham Maidment has come up with an innovative scheme to cool the tube using a resource that costs nothing.
Wow! An amazing place. What happens here?
Well, we've got this clean, cold water coming in from that pipe over there, and it's in the right place for cooling the tube.
Professor Maidment's idea is to use groundwater. A pilot scheme is being tried here in Victoria, where running through the tube station is an underground river. Water that's being pumped out anyway to prevent flooding.
So how does it go from being cold water here to actually cooling down the station out there?
Well, what we've got is we've got a pipe in the corner there that takes some of the water out, okay? It pumps it to a heat exchanger, the water warms up, but the air gets cold. These are the heat exchangers, yeah. Basically, in the middle we've got some fans. They suck the air out. They push the air through these blocks here, and within there, they're the cold water pipes.
Ah, so that's where the water's
That's where the water's running through,
yeah.
and the air discharges out the other side, nice and cool.
So the cool air is spilling out from the edges?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it should be colder around here?
You can feel it. It's really good.
Much colder.
This pilot scheme at Victoria has reduced the temperature on the concourse by 3 degrees, and London Underground is looking at how best to introduce the system more widely. Back in the heat chamber though, I'm getting hotter.
Starting to sweat now.
Normal body temperature is approximately 37 degrees Celsius, and once the temperature is raised above this, sweating will occur.
Starting to feel really drowsy.
At between 38 and 39 degrees, somebody exposed to that can become lethargic, they can become irritable, and they can become confused.
Starting to get a bit sort of slight headache.
Once we hit 40.5 degrees, we're talking about heat stroke, and heat stroke at that point constitutes a medical emergency.
Aside from new ideas to cool the tube like the groundwater scheme in Victoria, some old ideas are also being revived.
Now this may come as a surprise to you hot and bothered commuters, but there are actually ventilation shafts on the underground already. Like this one that was built in the 1960s, and I'm right inside it, and it's huge. And this one's not alone. There's about 120 of them on the entire network. But over the last 40 years, about half of them have fallen into disrepair because of lack of funding. But one of the initiatives for cooling the tube is to bring them back into action. I wonder what's taken them so long.
Well, some of them have been in service for a long time, others have fallen into disrepair.
Why has that been allowed to happen?
The tube has got warmer over time, so maybe 15 years ago it wasn't as critical to have had this working.
So there's no one set date when the entire tube network will be comfortable to travel in then?
The tube network has many different challenges, so there's not one solution that fits all. But the critical point is...
So there's no date?
Where we have solution sets already, for example, for the subsurface railway, we already have dates, and we are also working on solutions for how to air-condition deep tube trains.
But while they look for those solutions, for the foreseeable future, passengers travelling on the deep tube lines in summer can still expect more of the same.
Probably getting up for 30 degrees outside, but it felt much hotter than that on the tube.
We were stuck for 15-20 minutes.
It's absolutely boiling.
If you're stuck for that long and there's no ventilation, it's just a nightmare.
And for Swedes, it feels like a sauna.
But a sauna is meant to be a pleasure, and back in the heat chamber, it's more like torture. The white areas in the thermal images show the temperature on my clothes is now over 44 degrees.
Really uncomfortable now. My clothes are actually wet, and I can feel sweat dripping off my face. And to think that it gets worse on the tube because so many bodies around you, all sweating.
Thankfully, this is a lab and I can leave whenever I want. But if this was a tube stranded in a tunnel, I would be in serious trouble.